Hey, everyone, and welcome to your deep dive. So today, we're going to be looking closely at a TED Talk that really got me thinking. And it's by Dr. B.J. Miller, and it's called What Really Matters at the End of Life.
Yeah.
Now, you sent this in. So you already know Dr. Miller brings a really unique perspective to this. He's not only a physician, but he's also a patient.
Right.
After a really tragic accident as a young man, he lost both of his legs below the knee and his left arm below the elbow.
Wow.
And this dual perspective gives him incredible insight, not just into the healthcare system itself, but also into what really matters when our time starts to run short.
It's true. And in this talk, Dr. Miller doesn't sugarcoat things at all.
No.
He really faces death head on, but he does so with such honesty and even, I'd say, a bit of dark humor.
Yeah.
He really pushes us to rethink how we view death, both on a personal level and as a society.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this talk. It's so thought-provoking.
Yeah.
He starts by sharing his story. You know, the accident that changed his life forever.
Yeah.
He was a college student climbing on top of a train with some friends when 11,000 volts surged through him, leading to those amputations.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a story that could easily make your skin crawl.
Yeah.
But the way Dr. Miller tells it, with such matter-of-factness, you almost forget the horror of what actually happened.
You're right. There's this one detail that stuck with me.
Yeah.
His father taking his still working watch and wearing it, even though Dr. Miller couldn't anymore.
It's such a powerful...
It's such a small gesture.
Yeah.
But so powerful. It speaks volumes about the kind of love and support that can really help someone through the darkest times.
Yeah.
That even when faced with unimaginable suffering, human connection can be a source of incredible strength.
It really makes you think about your own experiences, right?
Yeah.
Like, how have the things we've been through, both big and small, shaped the way we see death and what we value most?
Exactly.
You know, do we avoid thinking about it? Or do we kind of embrace it as a natural part of life?
Yeah.
It's a big question, but one that Dr. Miller wants us to really grapple with.
And he doesn't stop there.
No.
He goes on to critique the entire American healthcare system.
Right.
He argues that it's designed to fight disease, not to care for the whole person.
Yeah.
And this, he says, leads to unnecessary suffering, especially as we get closer to the end of life.
Right.
He tells a story about a patient named Frank who had advanced cancer but desperately wanted to raft down the Colorado River.
Yeah.
A lot of medical professionals advised against it.
Of course.
But Frank was determined to live life to the fullest, even knowing his time was limited.
Frank's story is so powerful, it really highlights that tension we often face.
Yeah.
You know, do we prioritize medical safety and comfort?
Right.
Or do we chase adventure and meaning, even if it kind of pushes the boundaries of what's medically advisable?
Yeah.
What do you think? What's the right balance?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
There's no easy answers there.
Yeah.
And this dilemma leads us to the first of Dr. Miller's design cues for how we approach the end of life. Separating necessary suffering from unnecessary suffering.
Like that.
He argues that some suffering is just a part of life. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
This type of suffering, he suggests, can actually bring us closer to others, fostering compassion and even healing.
He uses his own experience with limb loss as an example.
Right.
The loss was so painful, but it also became part of who he is.
Exactly.
He couldn't reject that suffering any more than he could reject himself.
Right.
And in accepting it, he found a new perspective, a way to turn that anguish into something beautiful.
That's a really powerful concept, and it's central to palliative care.
Yeah.
Which focuses on improving quality of life for people with serious illnesses.
Right.
It's not just about end-of-life care. It's about alleviating suffering and maximizing well-being at any stage of life.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting.
Go on.
Because Dr. Miller takes us beyond just trying to minimize suffering.
Okay.
He challenges us to focus on maximizing well-being.
Right.
Even at the end of life. He uses the word play.
Oh, interesting.
Not in a flippant way.
Right.
But to describe how we can adapt to life's challenges with creativity and find ways to express ourselves, even as we face death.
Yeah.
He compares it to things like cuisine.
Okay.
Or architecture.
Interesting.
We started with the basic needs of food and shelter.
Yeah.
But over time, we transform them into something beautiful and meaningful.
Exactly.
So he asks if dying is also a basic part of life.
Right.
What can we create from that? How can we design our approach to death in a way that helps us live more fully, even as our time grows short?
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And this brings us to his second design cue.
Okay.
Which focuses on tending to our dignity through the senses.
I like that.
He contrasts the sterile, impersonal experience of dying in a hospital with the rituals they practice at the Zen Hospice Project, where he works. For example, when a resident passes away, they have a flower petal ceremony as they wheel the body out through the garden.
Oh, wow.
And he talks about how important it is to engage the senses.
Yeah.
Even simple things like baking cookies in the hospice kitchen.
Oh.
It creates a welcoming aroma and a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when our bodies are failing, our senses can still bring us comfort and joy.
He shares a couple stories that really highlight this.
Yeah.
One is about Jeanette, a patient who had ALS, but decided she wanted to start smoking again.
Really?
It wasn't about self-destruction. It was about feeling her lungs fill with air while she still could.
Wow.
And there's a story about Kate, who chose to spend her remaining time with her dog rather than continuing chemotherapy.
Oh.
Both of these stories challenge our assumptions about what it means to die well.
Yeah.
They remind us that there's no one right way to do it.
Right.
And ultimately, each person needs to decide what matters most to them.
They really make you think about your own life, don't they? What sensory experiences bring you comfort and connection? Is it the smell of freshly brewed coffee, the sound of rain on the roof, or the feel of your pet's fur? These simple pleasures can take on new meaning when we think about our own mortality.
Absolutely. They remind us of what it means to be alive, to experience the world through our senses, and to find joy even in the midst of suffering.
It's all about shifting our perspective, finding those unexpected moments of beauty and meaning.
Yeah.
Those snowball moments, even as time slips away.
I like that.
And that, I think, is a key takeaway from Dr. Miller's talk.
What is it?
It's not about fearing death,
Right.
but about embracing life with all its messiness and complexity and ultimately its beauty.
He reminds us that death is not the opposite of life,
Yeah.
but a part of it.
Right.
And by designing for death, we can actually learn to live more fully, more intentionally, and appreciate how precious each moment truly is.
So are you ready to keep exploring these ideas?
Yeah.
Because we've only scratched the surface of Dr. Miller's talk.
There's so much more to unpack here.
Great. So in the next part, we'll continue our deep dive into Dr. Miller's talk. We'll explore his third and final design cue, which challenges us to shift our focus from avoiding pain to embracing well-being, even at the end of life.
Okay.
We'll also talk about how we can apply these ideas to our own lives and make space for wonder and possibility even as time marches on.
Sounds good.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion. In the meantime, why don't you take a moment to reflect on what we've talked about so far? What resonates with you? What questions are swirling in your mind?
Yeah.
Hold on to those thoughts, because we'll be back soon to continue our exploration.
Yeah.
See you in part 2.
See ya. Welcome back. As we delve deeper into Dr. Miller's talk, I'm really struck by his ability to find beauty and meaning in the most unexpected places. Yeah. It's like he's encouraging us to look at the world through a different lens, one that allows us to appreciate the fragility and preciousness of life, even in the face of death.
He really does have a way of shifting perspectives, doesn't he? And that leads us perfectly to his third design cue.
Okay.
Which I think is the most profound of all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He challenges us to shift our focus from just avoiding pain to actually embracing well-being.
Right.
Even at the end of life.
Oh, okay.
It's about creating space for life to fully express itself, even in its final stages.
And the word he uses to describe this is so intriguing.
I know.
Play.
Yeah.
Now he's not being flippant or dismissing the seriousness of death at all.
Right.
Instead, he's suggesting that we approach dying with a sense of creativity and adaptation, just like we do with other essential parts of life.
Right. He makes this really interesting analogy comparing play to things like cuisine, architecture, fashion, and music.
Interesting.
He points out that these all came from basic human needs, food, shelter, clothing, a way to mark time.
Right.
But they evolved into something so much more. They became expressions of beauty and meaning.
Exactly. So he asks, since dying is also an essential part of life,
what can we create with that fact? How can we approach death in a way that lets us live more fully, even as our time grows short?
It's a challenge, isn't it? To reimagine dying as a creative process, a crescendo rather than a decline.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what Dr. Miller is urging us to do.
Yeah.
He wants us to go beyond just avoiding pain and focus on truly maximizing our well-being, even in the final stages of life.
And he emphasizes that this isn't about dictating how anyone should die.
No.
It's about creating space for people to live their lives to the fullest right up until the very end.
Right.
It's about empowering them to make choices that reflect their values and priorities, even if those choices seem unconventional or go against traditional medical advice.
You know, like that story he tells about Kate, who decided to spend her remaining time with her dog instead of going through more chemotherapy.
Yes.
It was such a personal decision.
Of course.
But it reflected her values and her desire to make the most of the time she had left.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about giving up, but about choosing what truly mattered to her. And then there's the story of Jeanette, who chose to start smoking again even though she had ALS.
Yeah.
It wasn't about self-destruction. It was about reclaiming that sensation of her lungs filling with air while she still could.
These stories are so powerful because they challenge those conventional ideas about what it means to die well.
Right. Yeah.
They remind us that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
It's up to each individual to define what matters most to them at the end of life.
Absolutely. And I think this is where the role of healthcare professionals becomes so crucial.
Yeah.
It's not about imposing their own values and beliefs, but about creating a safe space for patients to express their wishes and make choices that align with their personal definitions of a good death.
Dr. Miller also talks about the importance of our senses in finding comfort and connection at the end of life.
Yeah.
He talks about how at the Zen Hospice Project, they bake cookies to create a welcoming and familiar smell for the residents.
Oh, nice.
It seems like such a small thing.
Yeah.
But it speaks volumes about how sensory experiences can evoke positive emotions and a sense of well-being,
Right.
even in those final moments.
It really does make you think about how we could be more intentional about incorporating sensory elements into end-of-life care.
Yeah.
What kind of music might bring comfort to a dying person? What scents might evoke pleasant memories?
Right.
What textures might feel soothing?
Yeah.
These are all important considerations, and they point to the need for a more holistic approach to care.
Right.
One that addresses the physical, emotional, and even spiritual needs of the dying person.
And you know, it's not just about the person who is dying. It's also about creating a supportive environment for their loved ones.
Yes.
A place where they feel comfortable expressing their grief, sharing memories, and saying goodbye in a way that feels meaningful to them.
Dr. Miller's talk really is a powerful reminder that death is not something to be feared, but rather an opportunity to reflect on what truly matters in life. It's a chance to let go of what no longer serves us and embrace the beauty and preciousness of the present moment.
And it's a call to action, isn't it?
It is.
Urging us to rethink how we approach death, both individually and as a society.
Yeah.
To create systems and spaces that honor the dignity and individuality of each person, allowing them to die well, surrounded by love and beauty.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, by designing for death, we can learn to live more fully, more intentionally, with a deeper appreciation for the gift of life.
We've covered a lot of ground here, but I think there's even more to explore. Dr. Miller's talk sparks so many questions.
I know.
How can we each in our own lives approach death not with fear, but with a sense of wonder and possibility?
Yeah.
What are those snowball moments of beauty and meaning that we can create and savor even as time melts away? What do those look like for you?
Those are great questions, and I think they'll lead us perfectly into the final part of this deep dive. When we come back, we'll wrap things up by considering how we can apply these ideas to our own lives and create a legacy of love and meaning that extends beyond our earthly existence.
I can't wait to dive into that. See you soon for part 3. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Dr. B.J. Miller's TED Talk, What Really Matters at the End of Life. And it has been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
You know, we've explored his personal story, his critique of the healthcare system, and those 3 powerful design cues for rethinking how we approach death.
It's been a very thought-provoking conversation.
Yeah, and now it's time to bring it all home.
Yeah.
What does all of this mean for us, for you listening right now?
Right.
How can we take these insights and apply them to our own lives, our relationships, our own understanding of what it means to be mortal?
I mean, this isn't just some kind of abstract philosophy that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is about how we live, how we love, and how we face that inevitable end that awaits us all. It's about finding meaning and beauty, even in the face of loss, and embracing the preciousness of every single moment.
You know, it all comes back to that powerful image Dr. Miller shared at the beginning of his talk, his father wearing his watch after the accident, the one that survived the electrical surge.
Oh, yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, love and connection can endure,
Absolutely.
offering us solace and strength.
It's a challenge to us, too, isn't it?
I think so.
To show up for the people we love, not just when things are good, but also in those times of grief and sorrow. To offer comfort and support even when we don't have the answers, even when we're grappling with our own mortality.
Dr. Miller is calling us to be more conscious, more intentional about how we live and die.
Yeah.
To move beyond simply trying to avoid pain and suffering, and instead focus on creating those moments of beauty, connection, and meaning.
Like those snowball moments he described.
Right.
Those unexpected bursts of joy and wonder that can kind of pop up even in the midst of pain and loss.
And that story about the nurse who brought him a snowball in the burn unit, it was such a simple act of kindness, but it spoke volumes about the power of human connection and the beauty of the natural world.
It reminds us that those moments are all around us just waiting to be discovered.
Right.
You know, if we open our hearts and minds, if we pay attention to the little things we can find, beauty and meaning, even in the most ordinary experiences.
So how can we create more of these snowball moments in our own lives?
Yeah.
And for the people we love? What would that look like for you?
Well, it could be as simple as truly listening to a friend who's going through a tough time, or expressing gratitude to the people who enrich our lives, or even just taking a moment to appreciate a beautiful sunset or the sound of birds singing.
It's about being present, being mindful, and savoring those moments that truly matter. Because, as Dr. Miller reminds us, life is fleeting and the time we have is precious.
He leaves us with a powerful challenge. How can we each in our own unique way design for death, not with fear, but with a sense of wonder and possibility? It's a question worth pondering, worth exploring, and worth weaving into the fabric of our daily lives.
It really is. Because in the end, it's not about how long we live, but how we live. It's about making the most of the time we have, connecting with others, creating beauty, and leaving the world a little bit brighter than we found it.
That's a legacy worth striving for.
Absolutely. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Dr. B.J. Miller's TED Talk. I hope this conversation has sparked some new thoughts and ideas for you and maybe even inspired you to approach life and death with a renewed sense of purpose and wonder.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those snowball moments that make life worth living.